This is Chris Myers, Orlando Fly Casting Lessons. In today's video, we're going to talk about some sidearm fly casting. I'm going to show you how I do it and why I use sidearm fly casting, and hopefully it'll be something that you can add to your casting arsenal if you don't already do it. So when I'm talking about sidearm casting, I'm talking about cast where your rod would be parallel to your waist. So it's going to be a side-to-side cast, rod tip parallel to your waist, and the great thing about sidearm casting is you can let it go on either side. So here's why I find sidearm casting extremely useful. Number one, if I want to keep a low profile early in the day, have the sun behind me, keeping this rod down here keeps the shadows in close as opposed to having my rod tip up here. Number two, it allows me to cast up underneath trees. So if I want to cast under these low-hanging branches back here, I'm never going to get under there coming from the top down onto them. I can easily get way back under there with the sidearm cast. Another reason I find a backhand cast extremely useful is for making casts over to my right-hand side. So I'm fishing facing the camera. All of a sudden I need to make a cast over here. Without having to turn my body, I can make presentations over to that side comfortably, accurately, and quickly. Sidearm casting should use the same speed, power, timing that we're using on our normal overhand stroke. So let's start with our normal stroke. Here's our normal overhand stroke. If I start to unbend my elbow down to a 90 degree, see the rod's going the same distance, the same speed, the same power, the same loop. So we're always taking these three pieces. We have the rod, we have the rod leg of the loop, the fly leg of the loop. All three of them we pick up, they remain in the same plane. We do not want to get it where the fly and the fly line are down below the tip. We don't want them so they'd be scraping the ground like so. We don't want them up over the tip. But down here on sidearm, little mistakes that you can get away with up over your head, especially when it's calm, quickly become a problem. So here are a couple things that you're going to have to watch out for when you start casting sidearm. If you have any rotation of your hand throughout this stroke, or if your tip is not traveling in a flat, straight line from left to right. So this is the line we need it to have. Same straight line we should be having up in the air. But down here, if we make a little undercurve, it's going to hit the ground. And we can do that by simply twisting our hand back and forth, or I could keep my hand the same and move the rod back and forth, which is a lot less common. Most of the time it's from rotating the hand. And if I keep my hand in one position, goes out nice and flat, everything's waist level, simply rolling my hand over so now my thumbnail would be on top. If I start my fingers on top, that fly went up probably out of the shot. It went so high up in the air. So you're going to see right away when you're not doing it correctly because you're going to lose your loop. In addition, if we're not staying on this straight line, so my straight line can only go from here to about here. This straight line is right here in front of me. If I'm coming back off the straight line, I'm going to pull the bottom of the loop apart. So I'm going to take my loop and pull it apart wider with the tip. So I'm going to lay out a nice loop on the ground here so you can see what this rod tip does when we move it off the straight line. Here's a loop that's less than 2 feet wide. If I move my rod tip way off that straight line, about 3 or 4 feet, now I have a loop that's 3 or 4 feet wide, not 2 feet wide. So you're going to see if your loop shape is nice and narrow when we're working on this sidearm cast. So for starters, I just work on one stroke at a time. If you're not used to doing the sidearm cast, make sure you have loops that are unrolling side to side, laying out nice on both sides of your body. Let's talk about foot position briefly. In my normal casting overhead stance, if I was casting towards the camera, I'd have my left foot forward, my casting side foot slightly back. and my cast would look like this. If I was going to make a sidearm cast towards the camera, I could either pivot my body this way and make a forward sidearm cast. It would take a little more movement, but I could also turn around this way and make a sidearm cast. So my sidearm casts are generally being presented to my sides, and I'm not trying to make a sidearm cast in the direction my toes are facing. Now we could do that. You have to kind of twist your body in order to get enough range of motion that way. So it's easier if you just point your toes at an angle away from where you're casting, not towards your target like we'd want to do in more conventional style casting. Another benefit that this sidearm casting offers is a chance for you to make presentations safely when you have a wind into your casting side. And I don't mean the wind's coming into my casting side. I try to do this for a sidearm cast to keep it from blowing into me. It's something we've all done. If we fished in the wind, you figure I can just reach out a little and it won't quite hit me. Never works out quite as nice. If I had a wind coming into my right hand ear, I can easily turn around and cast this way, and the wind is always blowing that hook away from me. Something else I find a sidearm cast quite useful for is when I'm fishing in heavy winds to my back especially, and I'm having to make accurate presentations. Normally my accurate cast in average to light winds would be high in the back, low in the front. It unrolls right above my target that way. If I make this high back cast with a strong wind to my back, the wind gets up underneath that line and it actually pushes it up higher and doesn't allow it to straighten out quite as nice. But if I'm coming directly into that wind with my sidearm cast, now I can cast low in the back, low in the front. I'm not casting under the wind, as I've heard many times before. People try to make it seem like there's no wind here and there's a bunch of wind right here. And I haven't ever found that to be the case when I've measured the wind speed. I'm casting directly into the wind and directly away from the wind, but I want my fly to unroll right above the target. So I could cast directly into the wind up here, but I'm either going to have to slam my tip down, ruining my loop on the delivery, or we're gonna have to let it go up here to maintain the loop, and then it flutters down, not on target anyway. So the reason I'm casting low is because I want it to unroll low in the front, and there's only two ways I can get it to unroll low in the front. Either I make a complete sidearm cast, or I unroll it high in the back. Those are the reasons I'm using that sidearm cast. If you are getting into fly casting and you want to know some more about casting, I highly recommend you check out my fly casting playlist. And I also have videos for established casters trying to improve their cast as well. If you're going to be in the Orlando area, you can come and see me for a one-on-one personal fly casting tune-up.